Oh, Renee, thank you so much. Just beautiful. Let's hear some words from the Hebrew Bible. First, the psalmist. So teach us to count our days that we may gain a wise heart. These words from the Hebrew prophet Joshua. Now, if you are unwilling to serve the Lord, choose this day whom you will serve. Whether the gods of your ancestors served in the region beyond the river, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you are living. But as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord, meaning the God of the Hebrew people. And then from the New Testament, words from Ephesians. Be careful then how you live, not as unwise people, but as wise, making the most of time, because the days are evil. So do not be foolish, but understand what the will of the Lord is. So what does an epic fantasy story about a ring of power and the races of humans, dwarves, and elves fighting to keep that ring out of the hands of an evil entity called Sauron, what does all of this have to do with our spirituality and our faith, our religion? Well, actually much. J.R.R. Tolkien, who penned the books, based his cinema and the books on which Peter Jackson based the cinematic vision, he said this about the modern era. Listen to what Tolkien said about our modern era. The spirit of wickedness in high places is now so powerful and so many-headed in its incarnations that there seems nothing more to do than personally to refuse to worship any of the Hydra's heads. The world, Tolkien thought, seemed little better than a new Tower of Babel, all noise and confusion. And it seems that Tolkien saw in his actual world much that he mirrored in his fantasy one. And I'm very grateful that he did. In his grand fictive creation of Middle-earth, Tolkien has given us a sandbox in which all sorts of imaginative creatures can come to life. Powerful wizards can battle each other, and they can extol wisdom to those who follow them. Mysterious elves can haunt the woodlands and cast spells on unsuspecting travelers. Malevolent orcs and goblins can serve their dark master and plot sieges of towns and villages with their goal of subjugating the entire world to their dark vision. A pitiable golem can become addicted to the idea of power and chase a ring halfway across Middle-earth. And a simple hobbit can find within himself the courage to do what no one else could. He could find the courage to return the ring of power to the fires of Mount Doom where it had been forged long ago by very dark magic. And then he could release that ring's hold over the hearts of humans and dwarves and elves. Potent stuff, ripe for the inclusion of all sorts of rich religious imagery. I believe that God has given us imaginations so that we might find truth in story. Humans learn much better through a story. Jesus knew this. That's why almost all of his teaching was in the form of little stories or parables. The human mind just grasps concepts better when presented in that manner. All right, so let's get into our story a little bit. There's a human land called Rohan, and in the second film, it is targeted for destruction by Sauron and his dark forces. So when this happens, the king of Rohan, Theoden, decides that he needs to evacuate all of his people to the safety of Helm's Deep. Well, it soon becomes clear that the evil forces are going to attack the humans at Helm's Deep, and so all of them begin preparing for this epic battle. The battle, in fact, is the primary focus of the last part of this middle movie, The Two Towers. Okay, I know it's a bit confusing if you haven't seen all three of these films. I'm trying to do over 8 hours of movie magic in less than 20 minutes, but if you haven't seen them, see them. Back to our story. Up to this time, all of the elves have refused to assist in battling Sauron, as they believe a policy of non-interference is in their best interests. Does that sound familiar? Elves and isolationism. So as the dwarfs and humans and the sole participating elf Legolas, they prepare to battle the raging hordes of orcs and goblins that are heading to Helm's Deep, something happens. Let's watch this clip.
We have trusted you this far, you have not led us astray. Forgive me. I was wrong to despair.
We had time to get this adjusted. It's a little tight across the chest.
That is no Orkhorn.
Gentle King. Open the gate!
I bring word from Elrond of Rivendell. An alliance once existed between elves and men. Long ago we fought and died together. We come to honor that allegiance.
You are most welcome.
We are proud to fight alongside men once more.
Obviously, we're missing a lot in the story. There's no way to do the whole trilogy unless you want to spend the whole day here. But I hope you're getting some of the main points that I'm driving at. Even in a world where darkness, ignorance, and hatred threaten to overwhelm us all, there is hope, and there are people we can turn to for help. Tolkien had a deep and abiding faith. He was raised by a Catholic priest who he considered his father, and Tolkien loved his church deeply. I also have to believe that his experiences in World War I helped shape his writing. In his books, there is always the threat of murder and chaos from the east. Mount Doom can be seen in the far distance, rumbling, belching ash and smoke. Surely, that's a clear metaphor for the threat of Germany at the time, with its lurking to the south and the east of Great Britain. So the psalmist reminded us that we are to count our days, that we may gain a wise heart. Often, when confronted with our own mortality, we find a kind of clarity that may be lacking in the ordinariness of our other days. I was deeply involved with 2 funerals just in the past few days, and these always remind me of the fragility of life and the fact that tomorrow is not promised us. We make assumptions and we go about our lives, but our lives can end as quickly as the snuffing out of a candle. The horrors that we witnessed the past week in France and this morning in Baton Rouge, they again show us what someone with an unclear and broken mind can do, what blind hatred and deep ignorance and the fear that accompanies that, what these can cause, how they can cause someone to lash out in obscene and reprehensible ways. Okay, so back to our story. When Pippin, one of the characters, one of the hobbits, is confronted with the very real prospect of his impending death in battle, he expresses his anxiety to the wizard Gandalf, and Gandalf in turn shares what is surely one of the most beautiful expressions of heaven ever rendered in the English language.
Didn't think it would end this way.
End? No, the journey doesn't end here. Death is just another path. One that we all must take. The grey rain curtain of this world rolls back, and all turns to silver glass. And then you see it.
What? Gandalf. See what?
White shores. And beyond, a far green country into a swift sunrise.
That isn't so bad.
No, it isn't.
Green country. I really like that. I can get behind that image of heaven. Now, the Bible is filled with contradictory information concerning heaven, and I believe that we have it within our human power to build God's beloved community here and now without waiting for a medieval interpretation of poorly translated Hebrew scripture that stands in as most of our ideas of heaven. We all know what is required of us to build God's beloved community. I have no idea what is holding us back. Back to Tolkien. Okay, spoiler alert for those of you who are unfamiliar with this story. Pippin survives that battle that he was preparing for, and good wins out in the end. There are a great many battle scenes and incredible acts of heroism. One scene in particular has Theoden's daughter, Eowyn, one of the few women in this story, being confronted by the all-powerful Witch King on the battlefield. Eowyn is disguised as a man, and she's in full battle armor and has been fighting the Witch King. And this Witch King is somewhat surprised at this warrior's abilities. And the Witch King exclaims, "He cannot be killed by any man." And in one of the greatest bits of feminism I've ever witnessed on the big screen, Eowyn takes off her helmet to show long, flowing blonde locks, declares that she is no man, and proceeds to stab the Witch King in his face. And then we watch him shrink in upon himself and wither away, not unlike the death of the Wicked Witch of the West in Oz. It's a great scene, and one that leaves you both breathless and laughing because of all the many layers at work there. And finally, after some of the most dramatic battle scenes ever captured on film, the forces of good prevail and Sauron is defeated. As the climax of the film gives way to the denouement, the unraveling, the moral, if you will, we get a scene of Aragorn. You would have seen him earlier in that very beginning scene from the Call to Worship, except it got hung up. He joined the fellowship he's been with the movie from day one. So we get this scene of Aragorn, the true anointed king of the humans. In fact, one of the few humans from the original Fellowship of the Ring. And we see him returning to his rightful place as ruler of Middle-earth. This scene is his coronation, and it has a few lovely surprises. Pay close attention to what happens.
Now come the days of the king. May they be blessed.
This day does not belong to one man, but to all. Let us together rebuild this world, that we may share in the days of peace.
So, you see, even though Aragorn is crowned, he is returned to both the throne and his true love. The real hero of our story are the little hobbits, the everyday people who rise to the occasion and achieve a remarkable and heroic outcome for their entire community. And the community knows this, recognizes it, and rewards them in turn. Actually, there are a few more endings to this movie. There's a farewell to the Fellowship of the Ring that we saw earlier. There's a moving farewell to Bilbo Baggins, Frodo's uncle, and the one who set the whole affair in motion. And finally, there's a scene where Frodo's companion, Samwise Gamgee, returns to his home and is reunited with his wife and daughter. all ends very well in Middle-earth. There is a constant movement in Tolkien's masterpiece, a desire to move the story forward and to move his characters into the plot. And this is captured beautifully in Peter Jackson's films. As we finish our exploration of The Lord of the Rings this morning, I would like to leave you with these words. It's the traveling song for the hobbits as they embark on their journey at the beginning. The road goes on. The road goes on and on, out from the door from where it began. Now far ahead the road is gone. Let others follow if they can. Let them a journey new begin. But I, at last, with weary feet, will turn towards the lighted inn, my evening rest and sleep to meet. I'm grateful to serve this congregation that journeys on its never-ending road. What delightful traveling companions you all are. Amen.